The Galactic Empire stretched across the stars, a vast and imposing force that held dominion over countless worlds. For ages, they'd ruled with an iron grip, stamping out any species that dared challenge their power. They viewed humanity as little more than a novelty, a young, relatively primitive race that had recently established its own interstellar presence. But a formality had granted humans a voice within the Empire, albeit a small one, and in a rare show of diplomacy, the Empire allowed humanity to send a single ambassador to participate in galactic matters. That ambassador was Elena Vasquez. The diplomatic summit was held on neutral ground, a sterile expanse of gleaming metal and crystal structures, where representatives from various species gathered to debate rights over a contested sector of space. Humanity had claimed this sector, drawn by the rich resources essential to their growing colonies. But the Empire had other ideas, seeing humanity's territorial ambitions as a minor inconvenience that could be squashed. Ambassador Vasquez stood her ground as the Zalthoran general, an imposing figure twice her height, sneered down at her. The Zalthoran were known for their brute strength and vicious reputation, and the general embodied both. He saw humans as a lesser species, something amusing but ultimately unimportant. His voice boomed through the grand hall, taunting and belittling Vasquez. Yet she met his gaze with unwavering resolve, refusing to yield humanity's claim to the territory. The debate turned heated, with the general demanding that humanity surrender control of the mineral-rich sector. Vasquez replied, her voice calm but unyielding, that humanity had a right to defend its resources, to stand as equals in this vast galaxy. This defiance was too much for the Zalthoran general. Without warning, he raised his weapon, a ceremonial blade, and in a swift, brutal motion, struck her down. The room fell silent. The act was as shocking as it was cold-blooded. Vasquez crumpled to the ground, and the general's expression barely shifted. Her death was not just a message for her, but a message to all. This display of dominance, broadcast across galactic channels, was meant as a warning to humanity and any other species daring to defy the Empire. But the reaction wasn't what the Empire anticipated. Back on Earth and throughout human colonies, the news of Ambassador Vasquez's death ignited an immediate and powerful response. It was more than the loss of a diplomat. It was an insult, a violation of everything humanity stood for. Anger turned to fury, and grief hardened into resolve. Protests erupted across cities, as citizens demanded justice. This was not something humanity could ignore, nor would they forgive. Across the cosmos, humanity's leaders were pressed into a decision. The United Nations of Space Colonies, or UNSC, convened with a singular purpose: to decide humanity's response. Humanity had known peace for years, focusing on exploration, innovation, and building bridges with other species. But Vasquez's murder had shattered that peace, and the UNSC faced a hard choice. Could they afford to stand up to an empire as vast and powerful as the Galactic Empire? Could they even hope to win? The debate was fierce. Some argued that retaliation would be suicide, that humanity wasn't ready to face such a monumental force. But others, particularly Earth's representatives, spoke with a voice filled with rage and conviction. Humanity could not, would not, submit to an empire that viewed them as insignificant. Vasquez's death demanded justice, and anything less than a full-scale response would dishonor her sacrifice. The decision was made. In an unprecedented move, the UNSC voted to declare full-scale war on the Empire. This wasn't a step taken lightly. It was a commitment, a promise to avenge Vasquez and show the Empire that humanity would not be cowed. The declaration of war was broadcast across the galaxy, sent to every corner of space. It was a statement of defiance, a line drawn in the stars. Humanity's message was clear: they would fight. This act of war brought humanity together in a way that hadn't been seen for centuries. Nations put aside their differences, colonies pledged their resources, and people united under one cause. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers, from Earth's bustling cities to the farthest outposts on distant planets. Humanity was mobilizing, not just for battle, but for survival and justice. Vasquez's death had become more than an isolated tragedy. It was a rallying cry, a symbol of humanity's unbreakable resolve. And so, humanity prepared itself for the unthinkable. The news of Ambassador Vasquez's brutal execution spread like wildfire across Earth and every human colony. It was more than just a death. It was a wound to humanity's pride, a stark reminder that the Galactic Empire viewed them as nothing more than insects to be swatted aside. The broadcast replayed across every network, showing the moment the Zalthoran general's weapon had cut her down, her defiant gaze never wavering, even as her life was taken. The anger and sorrow it ignited was unlike anything humanity had felt before. Streets filled with people, united in grief, demanding a response from their leaders. Back in the heart of Earth's government chambers, the United Nations of Space Colonies gathered in an emergency session. The hall was thick with tension, every representative aware that the weight of humanity's future rested on the decisions made here. Each member bore the voices of their people, voices that screamed for action, for justice, and for a stand against the Empire's tyranny. They were facing a force that had ruled unchallenged for centuries, yet there was no hesitation, no wavering. The message from every corner of human civilization was clear: Vasquez's death would not go unanswered. In a speech that would later be immortalized, Earth's representative, Director Alara Quinn, took the floor. She spoke with quiet rage, each word cutting through the chamber like a knife. She spoke of Vasquez's courage, her dedication, and the honor she'd brought to humanity by standing up to the Empire. Quinn's voice grew louder as she spoke of the Zalthoran general's arrogance, the Empire's complete disregard for human life, and the thinly veiled threat in the execution. "They think we will cower," she said, her voice echoing across the room. "They think we are weak. Let us show them how wrong they are." The vote to declare war passed without a single dissent. Humanity was united, and the declaration was broadcast as a challenge to the Empire itself. Gone were the diplomatic niceties, the pretenses of compliance. In their place was a promise of retribution, a warning that humanity would not be intimidated. Across the colonies, cheers erupted as the news spread. This was the answer they had demanded, the resolve they had wanted to see. Humanity had drawn a line, and they were ready to defend it with everything they had. As the declaration went out, the UNSC immediately shifted its focus to mobilization. Every resource humanity possessed was thrown into preparation. Factories on Earth and throughout the colonies went into overdrive, producing ships, weapons, and supplies. Military enlistment surged as people of all backgrounds volunteered, willing to leave their lives behind to fight for something greater. Humanity wasn't just preparing for a skirmish, they were preparing for survival. Engineers, scientists, and military strategists pooled their knowledge, creating new designs, new tactics, things that would give them an edge in the coming conflict. But the war effort wasn't only about weapons. In labs across the colonies, scientists accelerated research on experimental technology, knowing they needed every possible advantage. They worked day and night, developing cloaking devices, hacking protocols, and advanced AI systems designed to outmaneuver the Empire's forces. Engineers fine-tuned humanity's ships, increasing speed, agility, and resilience. They knew that their technology alone couldn't match the Empire's, but humanity's ingenuity had always been its greatest asset. This war would be fought on their terms, not the Empire's. As soldiers trained and warships were built, humanity's leaders coordinated a new strategy. This wasn't going to be a traditional war of territory and resources. They knew they couldn't face the Empire head-on. Instead, they planned a campaign of guerrilla tactics, surgical strikes, and swift, unexpected attacks that would wear down their vastly larger enemy. They studied every weakness in the Empire's vast network, mapping out targets that could cripple their logistics, disrupt their communications, and undermine their control. In the midst of this mobilization, Vasquez's image became a symbol, her defiant stance a reminder of what they were fighting for. Posters of her resolute face appeared in cities, on ships, and in the training camps. Her memory fueled their determination, turning grief into purpose. People wore badges with her likeness, carried her words with them, and swore to fight with the same courage she had shown. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity, dismissing them as a minor annoyance, incapable of real resistance. They hadn't counted on humanity's relentless spirit, the sheer depth of its unity. In the face of this massive threat, humanity was rising stronger than ever. The people were no longer individuals scattered across the stars. They were a single force, ready to show the Empire what it meant to challenge Earth. The stage was set, the pieces in motion. Humanity was ready, and they were coming for the Empire with everything they had. The echoes of Vasquez's final stand reverberated through every soldier, every scientist, and every leader. Her death had sparked a fire that the Empire couldn't extinguish. Humanity was united, and they were prepared to fight until the stars themselves bore witness to their vengeance. The machinery of war was now in full swing, a relentless effort spanning every human colony and outpost. In the weeks following the declaration, humanity poured every available resource into the war effort. Factories worked day and night, transforming once peaceful cities into production powerhouses, churning out warships, weapons, and equipment with a speed and efficiency that would have seemed impossible before. There was no hesitation, no second guessing. Every engineer, scientist, and worker knew the stakes. This was survival, and humanity was giving everything it had. The ships rolling out of the assembly lines were unlike anything humanity had built before. Designed for speed and maneuverability, they were stripped of anything unnecessary, built solely for efficiency in combat. Engineers incorporated advanced propulsion systems, cloaking devices, and reinforced armor, pushing the limits of human technology. These vessels would be the backbone of humanity's fleet, able to move undetected and strike hard before slipping away. Alongside them were specialized strike craft, outfitted with experimental weapons meant to disable Empire ships with a precision never before seen in galactic warfare. In research facilities, scientists worked around the clock to develop new technology that could give humanity an edge. They knew that traditional strategies would never be enough against the Empire's vast resources, so they focused on innovation. Cloaking devices became more sophisticated, allowing ships to evade detection even in heavily monitored Empire territories. Advanced AI systems were developed to assist with tactical decisions, reacting faster than any human mind could process. These AIs, programmed to adapt and learn, would be a force multiplier, helping pilots and commanders think 2 steps ahead of their enemies. Hackers and cyber specialists also played a crucial role, crafting code designed to infiltrate and disrupt the Empire's vast communication networks. They planned to wage war from the shadows, slipping into enemy systems and leaving behind chaos. They targeted anything that could slow the Empire down: transport routes, supply chains, even their internal communication channels. These cyber warriors were trained to undermine the Empire at every turn, planting confusion and disrupting coordination among their ranks. The Empire would soon learn that this war was not going to be fought by brute force alone. Meanwhile, humanity's military strategists and commanders met in war rooms across the colonies, developing plans that defied conventional tactics. They knew that meeting the Empire in open combat would be a death sentence. Instead, they crafted a blueprint for guerrilla-style warfare, focusing on hit-and-run attacks and surgical strikes. Each target was selected for maximum impact, and every strike was planned to throw the Empire off balance. These attacks would not win the war in a single blow, but they would erode the Empire's strength piece by piece, forcing them to spread thin and leaving them vulnerable. In training camps, soldiers drilled tirelessly, preparing for battles they knew would push them to their limits. Veterans shared hard-earned wisdom with younger recruits, teaching them how to survive in the hostile environments they would soon face. Physical endurance was only part of the training. Each soldier was taught the psychological resilience they need to endure the chaos of war. Many would be operating far from any backup, cut off and outnumbered. They were trained to adapt, to think on their feet, to use every tool at their disposal. They understood the importance of their role. They were humanity's shield and sword, each one ready to carry out Vasquez's legacy. In the midst of this preparation, humanity's leaders coordinated a message across their forces. This wasn't just a fight for territory, it was a fight for existence, for the right to live without fear of annihilation. They emphasized that every person in the chain, from the soldier on the front line to the worker building ships, was essential. Humanity's strength came from its unity, from the shared belief that they could succeed against impossible odds. It was a message that resonated deeply, fueling their determination. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for each other. As plans finalized, humanity's readiness reached a peak. They were faster, sharper, and more prepared than anyone had anticipated. And just in time, as scouts reported Empire fleets moving in their direction, determined to snuff out the threat before it could grow. The UNSC leadership had anticipated this, and their strategy was already in place. They didn't intend to meet the Empire's overwhelming force head-on. Instead, they would strike where the Empire least expected, forcing them to respond to humanity's terms. Every move, every action was designed to keep the Empire off balance. In the final hours before deployment, silence settled across the fleet. It was the calm before the storm, a moment of reflection before each soldier, scientist, and officer set out to carry the weight of humanity's fight. For many, thoughts turned to Vasquez, to the memory of her last stand. Her spirit had ignited this war, and her courage was their guiding force. They knew that their sacrifices, their struggle, would honor her memory, making her death the spark of a new era. The signal came, and the fleet moved. Humanity was ready. The preparations were complete, and every piece was in place. As ships sped out from the safety of their colonies, humanity braced itself for the battles that lay ahead. There would be losses, struggles that tested the very limits of their endurance. But with each passing hour, with every beat of a determined heart, humanity drew closer to proving its resolve. They were more than ready to face the Empire. They were ready to win. The fleet moved through space with a quiet ferocity, a spear aimed straight at the heart of the Empire. Humanity's first target was a vital Empire outpost, a communications and supply hub that supported entire sectors of the Empire's fleet. The plan was audacious: infiltrate deep into enemy territory, strike without warning, and vanish before the Empire could respond. Every soldier, pilot, and officer knew the risks. They were venturing into the heart of an empire that had crushed countless rebellions. But this time would be different. Humanity had the element of surprise, and they were ready to use it to devastating effect. As the fleet approached, cloaked ships slipped ahead, invisible to Empire sensors. They drifted silently through the darkness, positioning themselves around the outpost in a perfect formation. These ships were humanity's vanguard, equipped with newly developed stealth tech that shielded them from detection. Hours passed as they waited, nerves wound tight, every person aboard knowing they had one chance to make this strike count. Then, with a single, synchronized signal, they attacked. Explosions erupted across the outpost, tearing through the structures that housed vital communications equipment and supply depots. Shocked Empire personnel scrambled to respond, but the speed and precision of the human assault left them paralyzed. Human ships swarmed like hornets, each one moving with surgical accuracy, targeting key systems with relentless focus. Energy shields flickered, weapon stations went dark, and the Empire's communication network was severed in seconds. It was a flawless strike, each movement executed with the coordination and discipline honed through weeks of intense preparation. Empire reinforcements scrambled to the outpost, their massive ships lumbering into position. But humanity's fleet was already moving, slipping out of range before the Empire could react. Human ships darted in and out, delivering brutal hits before vanishing into the void. The Empire's forces were built for overwhelming power, not speed. They couldn't match the maneuverability of humanity's smaller, faster vessels, and it became clear they were facing a new kind of warfare. The success of this first strike was nothing short of astonishing. The Empire, accustomed to the slow, grinding battles that had defined their rule, was caught completely off guard. News of the attack spread through their ranks, a humbling reminder that they were not untouchable. But more than that, it sent a message to the galaxy: humanity was here, and they would not be intimidated. The Empire had crushed countless species, but humanity would be different. They fought with a level of passion and ferocity that the Empire hadn't anticipated, and it was a lesson the Empire would learn painfully. Emboldened by their initial victory, human forces prepared for the next phase. Rather than consolidating their gains, they moved to a new target, each strike carefully chosen to destabilize the Empire further. Human ships appeared and vanished across Empire space, their attacks swift and brutal. Supply lines were disrupted, outposts fell silent, and communication networks broke down. The Empire was forced to respond, stretching their forces thin across vast distances as they tried to protect vital assets from these relentless attacks. With each victory, humanity's confidence grew. They adapted quickly, refining their strategies and pushing deeper into enemy territory. Humanity's AI-driven tactical systems analyzed every skirmish, learning the Empire's weaknesses and refining their approach. Commanders used this information to coordinate strikes with pinpoint accuracy, exploiting vulnerabilities the Empire didn't even realize they had. And in every engagement, human soldiers showed a level of resilience and creativity that Empire forces struggled to counter. They fought not with the cold discipline of the Empire's ranks, but with a passion and determination that was unpredictable and relentless. As the Empire's frustration grew, cracks began to show in their unity. For centuries, they had been the undisputed rulers of the galaxy, their power unchallenged. Now, they were dealing with an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere, an enemy that defied their understanding of warfare. Rumors of humanity's victories spread across the Empire's controlled worlds, reaching the ears of oppressed species who had long suffered under the Empire's rule. These species began to see humanity as a beacon of hope, a force that could challenge the Empire's iron grip. Small uprisings started to break out on occupied planets, inspired by humanity's defiance. These rebellions were small at first, scattered and easily contained, but they were a distraction the Empire couldn't afford. For every soldier dispatched to put down a revolt, there was one fewer to defend against humanity's attacks. The Empire's leaders were forced to divide their attention, dealing not only with the human threat but with the growing unrest among their own subjects. They realized too late that humanity's war was more than just a series of isolated strikes. It was a full-scale destabilization effort, and it was working. The impact of these victories was felt far beyond the battlefield. Across human colonies, hope flourished. Families who had sent loved ones off to fight received news of victories, small triumphs that felt monumental. Every successful strike, every defeated Empire ship, was a testament to humanity's strength. Vasquez's legacy had not only been honored, it was being carried forward with every victory, her memory a guiding force that pushed humanity to fight harder, to reach further. In time, even the Empire's elite began to grasp the scale of what they were facing. This was not a mere rebellion. Humanity's defiance was spreading like wildfire, igniting a galaxy-wide movement that could reshape the future. The Empire, once thought unbreakable, was now facing the unimaginable, a force that could threaten their very existence. Humanity's relentless campaign was taking its toll on the Empire, but the full measure of their strength was yet to be unleashed. As the Empire scrambled to maintain control, human forces pressed forward with a singular purpose, systematically dismantling the structures that had once seemed unassailable. Each new victory bolstered their confidence, each successful strike an echo of their unyielding resolve. The final push was coming, and humanity was preparing for a battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Word of humanity's defiance had sparked a movement across occupied worlds. Species once resigned to the Empire's rule now saw the possibility of freedom, inspired by humanity's audacity. Small uprisings turned into coordinated revolts. Empire forces, stretched thin and demoralized, struggled to keep order as rebellions erupted on multiple planets. Humanity, recognizing the potential of this galactic unrest, began to covertly support these uprisings. Supplies, intelligence, and tactics were shared with rebel leaders, allowing them to disrupt the Empire from within. These rebellions grew stronger, feeding off humanity's victories and destabilizing the Empire in ways they couldn't contain. The UNSC saw an opportunity. They coordinated with allied species and prepared a bold strategy, an assault on the Empire's capital, the very heart of its power. This final offensive would be a show of strength and unity, a coalition of forces determined to end the Empire's tyranny once and for all. The capital, heavily fortified and patrolled by the Empire's most elite forces, had been deemed untouchable for centuries. But humanity's resolve was unshakable, and they had allies who were equally driven by the promise of freedom. As the coalition fleet assembled, an atmosphere of determination settled over every ship. Soldiers, pilots, and commanders knew that this battle would define the future of the galaxy. The fleet moved with precision, each vessel taking its place in the vast formation, a testament to the strength humanity had built through weeks of grueling combat. Every fighter, every support ship, every massive war cruiser was there for one reason: to bring down the Empire. The battle began with a coordinated assault that hit the Empire's defenses like a hammer. Human ships led the charge, striking the outer defenses with a ferocity that caught the Empire's forces off guard. Shields flickered and collapsed as the coalition tore through, breaking past the initial blockade. Empire's ships moved to counter, their larger and more powerful vessels looming like juggernauts, but they were met with tactics they couldn't counter. Human forces maneuvered with precision, their smaller ships darting around Empire cruisers, targeting weak points with ruthless accuracy. The Empire's elite forces fought back fiercely, but the coalition was relentless. Ships from allied species joined the assault, filling the sky above the capital in a maelstrom of fire and steel. Fighters weaved through enemy lines, bombers targeted the main defensive stations, and human command ships coordinated every move, every strike, with perfect precision. It was a symphony of war, each movement calculated, each blow deliberate. The Empire, long accustomed to absolute control, was facing chaos unlike anything they'd ever known. As the coalition forces pressed deeper, the battle reached a fever pitch. Ground forces landed on the capital's surface, fighting their way through fortified positions toward the Empire's central command. Human soldiers moved with a fierce determination, pushing through waves of enemy troops, knowing that every step brought them closer to victory. Allied forces fought beside them, each species fighting not just for their own freedom but for the liberation of the galaxy. It was a moment of unity that transcended differences, a shared commitment to end the Empire's rule once and for all. In the Empire's command center, panic took hold. Leaders who had once viewed humanity as insignificant now watched in horror as their defenses crumbled. The reports coming in were clear: they were losing. Humanity's assault had shattered the illusion of the Empire's invincibility. Faced with a coalition that refused to break, the Empire's leadership realized too late that their centuries of dominance were coming to an end. The final blow came as human forces breached the central command compound. Empire leaders, cornered and stripped of their power, were forced to surrender. The moment was broadcast across the galaxy, a symbol of the Empire's fall and the dawn of a new era. The once feared rulers of the galaxy had been defeated, not by overwhelming power, but by the resolve of those who dared to defy them. In the aftermath, humanity and its allies worked to build a new order. Worlds that had lived under the Empire's oppression were now free to govern themselves, their voices united in a coalition that promised mutual respect and cooperation. Humanity, no longer seen as a minor species, became a leader in this new alliance, its bravery and tenacity remembered and celebrated across the stars. They established a council where every species had a voice, ensuring that the oppression that had killed Ambassador Vasquez and so many others would never happen again. Vasquez's legacy became a guiding force, her image a reminder of the courage that had sparked a revolution. Statues were erected in her honor, stories of her final stand passed down through generations. Her sacrifice had been the catalyst, and humanity had turned that spark into a fire that reshaped the galaxy. As peace settled over the newly liberated worlds, humanity looked to the stars, knowing that their journey was only beginning. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to fight for freedom, to stand up against impossible odds and win. Their unity, resilience, and spirit had changed the course of history, proving that even the mightiest empire could fall when faced with a force driven by justice and the unbreakable will to be free.